Hey, good morning. Make sure my microphone's on. Yes, it is. Still running a little bit behind this morning, as I am usually. You guys know that. Let's just be honest. Okay, let me double check. My audio is connected to the right microphone. Okay, good. I'm excited about today's chit chat with Kelly Falardo. She was named to 2020's Most Inspirational Woman of the Year and just won some national speaking competition. Hey Fiona, hi Amy. So yeah, pretty exciting. She's a really neat gal, and very, very pleased that I was able to get her on, especially with just such a new podcast, you know what I mean? And the fact that she agreed to be on the show, and oops, forgot to kill the background music. Sorry about that. So she agreed to be on the show, and we got to talk, and it was just all pretty cool. So that's really neat. Next week, now if you're in my very, very private group, and it's the Modesty group, the Dressing with Dignity group, you know that we're doing a special challenge this week. We're doing a virtual scavenger hunt. So it was kind of a test run for something else that we're doing next week in the Elegant Executive group. So Elegant Executives, I never really worked with it. It was something I set up, did I set it up before my mom got sick a couple of years back, and was never able to really devote some serious time to it. So, excuse me. So now I'm trying to do more with that. And so next week we're doing kind of a 5-day intensive or a mini course. The big thing right now are challenges. Everybody's running a challenge. Hey, Joanne. And so I'm like, I don't know, a spring cleaning challenge, but I thought, why don't we focus more on the fact that it really is a class. It's a mini course. I'm going to be doing it for free. If people want to upgrade to a VIP, there'll be a separate charge for that. I haven't decided how much that's going to be. And they'll get more one-on-one with me, more one-on-one time. But we're going to start really slow because I've never done one before. So it's going to be your 5 steps to a perfect closet or a perfect outfit. Haven't even named it yet. We're just kind of rolling the dice here. I do have a business meeting this afternoon and a mastermind. So I will run it by these multi-million dollar business owner type people and get their input. Because normally I'm the one that's giving a bunch of input. So this time it'll be my turn to be in the hot seat type of thing, which I'm excited about. So that's going on next week. So if that email will be going out, so hopefully you're on my email list. If not, yeah, 5 steps. I mean, it's just 5 steps. Yeah, it's not that much. So, and it's just 5 days in a row, and there'll be challenges and gifts and prizes and that kind of stuff. So let me see. So it's, excuse me. I'm really excited about it. We're doing more gamification, kind of like we're doing in my group right now with the virtual scavenger hunt. So it's like a game, and there'll be prizes. But this is really how to go through your closet. How many times have you started and not finished, or that type of thing. So we're going to go through the closet. We're going to find the things that work. It's not going to cost you any money because you're not going to go shopping and get new stuff. We're just going to go through and find the things in your closet that work for you. Then we'll get rid of the rest of the stuff. Or the other way around. You're going to go through the closet first and pull all the junk you don't wear, get rid of that. Then we're going to go through there and find the pieces that do work and start doing an outfit formula for you and help you develop that. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be excellent, Fiona. I agree. I've been running around all morning. We had family dinner last night. Crab stuffed flounder. Not imitation crab, I shall have you know. When my oldest daughter, Darcy, cooks, you're going to get the best stuff. She is like a gourmet cook. So we had, with the perfect wine paired with it, a crab stuffed flounder, which was so good because real crab, expensive, but worth it because it tastes different than artificial crab. I'm sorry. And then then we did asparagus and garlic mashed potatoes. So she roasts garlic, like heads of garlic, and then smashes up the roasted garlic in with the mashed potatoes. Oh, so good. Oh, I know. Imitation crab meat. It's like sweet. I don't know. I forget what I think it's made out of some kind of fish, but I don't know. It's like rubbery and squeaky. It like squeaks on your teeth. It's gross. Oh, and this is my new addition to the family. I entered a drawing on one of my favorite podcasts, the Business Lunch podcast. I entered a drawing and I won. So I now have these handy dandy, of course there's two of them, little AirPods. And as soon as, it's on. And as soon as you put them in your ear, they automatically know that they're in your ear and they turn on. And then when you take them out of your ear, they automatically turn off. And then they go into their little charging case. And the other cool thing is that you can tap to pause or double tap to skip. So if you're listening to a podcast or music or whatever, it goes really quick. I get stuck in a lack mindset with clothing pieces that aren't favorites or need to go, but are all I have. Yeah, that's great. I know that feeling. Hey, Valerie. Good morning. Valerie's over on Facebook. And what was I saying? Get stuck in lack. Yeah. Well, and that's why I like the whole idea of a 22-piece capsule wardrobe. Because if you have those core 22 pieces, the 5 tops, the 6 bottoms, 4 dresses, 3 jackets type of thing, or finishing layers. Those are your real core pieces. And if you have those, and then plus the shoes. So if you have those 22 pieces, you can mix and match 6 months worth of unique outfits if you have the right pieces. So, I have things I've kept because they were gifts, but they didn't work for me. But I kept them because I felt guilty that they were a gift. Then I realized through counseling that when they were given to me as a gift, it was given to me. If there's strings attached to it, then that's not really a gift. So if they were given to me and it doesn't work for me, I can donate it to somebody else that it's going to work for. So I ended up giving away things out of my closet that work for other people. So, maybe we'll start singing "Let Them Go," let it go. Because if you don't feel good when you wear them, get rid of them. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about that next week. For sure. So anyway, so that's coming up next week. Super, super, super excited about that. Then last week, that hasn't aired yet. So next week's guest, Joanne Newduck, is she's a former oncology nurse, and now she runs a group, Fabulous Over 50. And she was in the group, and then the lady who ran the entire worldwide organization got sick and then turned it over to her. And I think the gal has since passed away. So Joanne's got this thing. She's like, wait a minute, I'm an oncology nurse. But she was like what we call PRN. I forget what they call it in Canada. But anyway, she was like as needed. She didn't work full time. She was part time, just only when they needed her. So anyway, but her thing is working with women. But she runs this Fabulous Over 50. It's becoming a global movement, really. And on the side, she's been coaching women, because she's a nurse, she's been coaching women over 50 as we're going through all these changes. So she'll be talking about that next week. So anyway, her and I got to talking last week after the show. It's just, the thing I love about interviewing people? I have all these new girlfriends. They're amazing. Anyway, so we got to talking after the show. And I started giving her some of my symptoms. She goes, Ma, and I said, I'm really... And I still am, but I'm really concerned that there's like cancer in my intestines or something's wrong. There's something wrong and I can't put my finger on it and I don't know, but I've always trusted my intuition and my gut. So we started talking about it, and because she was an oncology nurse, she knew all the right questions to ask, and she says, no, I don't think so. But what I do think is that it's this, and this. So if you want, I'll just give you all the blood work and stuff that you need to have done. I'll give you a list of everything if you want to take it to your doctor, which reminds me, I have to call my doctor today. She's going to want to take it to your doctor. This is what I need to know, but I can tell by your symptoms that this is probably, so are you eating this? Are you doing that? Blah, 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 blah. So she just kind of gave me a few suggestions on things to try. And I tried them the past 3 or 4 days. Wait a minute, when did I talk to her? Anyway, they're working. They're working. So I'm really excited. I feel a lot better. Physically, mentally, everything. So anyway, where was I? Help me in the challenge next week. Yes, absolutely. Over 50 is naturally fabulous. I own it. And that's what Joanne and I were talking about. That interview is coming out next week, I think. There's an authority and a wisdom, I think, Joanne. There's an authority that naturally goes with being over 50. Hey, Lori, good to see you. Glad you're here this morning. So it's, something I'm really excited about. Oh, Lordy, look at the time. All right. So without any further ado, let's start. And also, before I forget, before we go into this, if you're not a cappuccino this week, you're really gonna, there's so much good information in there now. Make sure that you look at the link, or if you're listening to this, go to colleenhammond.com/club, CLUB, and that will take you to this page as well. But cappuccino members are getting some. Every time I sit down with somebody, I say I'm going to do another 5 minutes, and it usually ends up being 10 or 15 minutes with the guest who presents specific information just for our VIPs, just for the cappuccino members. So if you just want to have access to the transcripts to the shows and the podcast and everything, then that's the base level. The next level is you get the transcription, if you just want the recordings and the notes, that's at the base level. The recordings and the transcription are at the middle level. But the cappuccino level, that's where, and you've got a gift coming out to you this month as a cappuccino. Every 3 months, I send a physical gift. Last month, it was a China, it's not this mug, but it was a China coffee mug for Coffee with Colleen. The time before that, 3 months before that, I think it was like a makeup case or something. And then before that so every 3 months I send out something physical that you get in the mail that comes from me. And I'm telling you what it is this month, but it's coming to you this month. And I just never know. The shipping on those things can either take 2 days or 2 weeks, or or December, it took a month. But that's coming out. But anyway, so cappuccino members get the extended interviews, with the guest. And Kelly did the extended portion that Kelly did was on perseverance. And she talked about happy land, and she talked about poor soul. And so she really gave she had 17. And I said, well, it's supposed to be 5 or 10 minutes. And she goes, okay, I'll do the top 3. So she gave 3 tips to how to persevere in any situation, like any day of the week. Like if she's having an argument with, with her ex-husband, or, whatever, how she can stay calm in those things and persevere and keep herself happy. So there's so many good things. So anyway, if you haven't looked into being a cappuccino, try it out for a month, because every single solitary week, every guest gives us bonus information and bonus materials. It's so worth it. So, alrighty. Yes. Hey, Chris. Yeah, our cappuccino gifts are always a surprise. And last month when I sent them, they were made with your name. They were very personalized, so it wasn't like I just sent something. I actually went in, and as a graphic designer, I designed them and made them and sent them out. So they are sent with love. Anyway, so check out the cappuccino members. All right. So now I think it's worth it. I think, and in my Wednesday business meetings, I meet every other Wednesday is the mastermind, and the opposite one my meeting with my business manager or our marketing manager. And they all say, for what I provide, what we charge is way too low. I'm way lower. Most people that are doing the stuff that I'm doing are charging $97 a month, and cappuccino membership is not even anywhere near that. So, all right, so let's dive in. And 54 and owning it. There you go, Valerie. Yeah, you guys will love Joanne. That's in 2 weeks. I think as old as next week. So anyway, let's jump into Kelly's interview. And then I'll be back at the end and we'll discuss a little bit more about what Kelly has to say. Great stuff. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Coffee with Colleen. We have a very special guest, somebody I'm very excited to have gotten on the show. Her name is Kelly Falardo, and I had to practice how to say her name.
You did it perfect.
Thank you, Kelly. She was going to be Kelly F there for a minute. So let me read you her background and her story. Kelly Falardo is a burn survivor since the age of 2. And she was burned over 75% of her body. She found a way to go from a near death to success, from the ugly scar-faced girl to the TEDx stage twice, Fierce Woman of the Year, a 7-time international best-selling author, recipient of the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal, and YWCA Woman of Distinction. There is a documentary about her life story called Still Beautiful, and it launched on TV. Plus, Goalcast launched a video that is almost 10 million views. And probably by the time this airs, there's going to be more. And Global TV in Canada named Kelly one of the most inspirational people of 2020 on Christmas Day in 2020. So we're very lucky to have you as a guest. And I really can't wait to hear your story, Kelly. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, because I feel like I'm the lucky one to be on your show.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. So let's talk about your background. You probably don't remember. I mean, if you were burned in this, I don't know if it was an accident. What happened, basically?
Sure. So I was 2 years old and we lived on a farm, and my cousins were burning shingles from the old barn roof. And so I happened to go outside because I wanted to be with my cousins, my older cousin. And a spark came out, landed on my dress, and I exploded. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I spent 4 months in the hospital. Every 2 days, I'd have to be in the operating room for more surgeries. And then every 2 years until I was about 20 years old, I'd have to go back for more surgeries because they needed me to grow so that they'd have more skin to work with.
So they were skin grafts. They just kept doing more skin grafts?
Right.
Oh my goodness. That must have been extremely painful.
Well, and the fortunate thing is I don't remember the accident because I know that would have been extremely painful. I don't remember my life until I was about 5 years old. I remember being in kindergarten, and I remember then I start remembering my surgeries. And so, there was a lot of pain involved. And every time I would have more surgeries, I was hoping that I'd be beautiful. And of course, the scars would still be there. So I never ever thought that I would ever be beautiful. And when I was in grade 5, I watched past my teacher's desk, and I saw a picture that someone had drawn of me. And it was a circle with eyes, nose, and mouth, and scribbles all over it. And it said Scarface.
Oh my gosh. How old were you? 5th grade?
I was in 5th grade. So I would have been 11. So I knew then that that's what the kids were calling me. Mm-hmm. And so I still remember thinking that, like, if somebody has glasses, they can just go get contacts and they're no longer 4 eyes. Or if someone who's overweight can just go on a diet and then they're no longer, fatty 2x4, right? But me, I knew because my doctor was doing all these surgeries, my scars were never going to go away. And so I knew that I would never lose that label of the Scarface girl. And I knew that, nobody loves the girl that's covered in scars, right?
Ouch. Kids are so mean and so cruel too, and I think, growing up, we can all look back and say, I was called 4 eyes. Or for me, I'm really tall. I'm like 6 feet tall. So it was always, what's the weather like up there in String Bean? And, but kids are cruel. Kids are cruel, and they say the darkest things, So I think a lot of us can relate to a certain point of being bullied, ridiculed, and mocked. But did any of that continue? Okay, so that's 5th grade. So then you get into middle school and high school and beyond. Did that type of thing continue or get worse? Or, because then you've got, now the school dance is coming up and now I've got this and that. So how did you struggle through those times?
Well, I still remember actually being, I think it was 6th or 7th grade. And I remember that, I remember seeing one of the bullies and I thought, oh no, he's over there. I had to walk past him to get into the school. And I was like, oh, I really hope this time he doesn't see me.
Oh, gosh.
So he doesn't say anything. And sure enough, I walked as fast as I could, really fast past him, and he did see me. And what I didn't see, though, is that one of the guys, my friends from school, he saw it also. So he stuck up for me and he said, would you quit picking on Kelly? If you're going to pick on somebody your own size. And pick on a guy, not a girl.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so he actually ended up getting kicked out of school, the bully. Because that wasn't, of course, the first time, right? There was multiple times. So definitely, there was a lot of that going on. But fortunately, I'm half deaf. And so I didn't hear a lot of what people were saying. So that was good. So my hearing protected me, or my loss of hearing.
Right.
Protected me, right? But it's still, even though I wasn't hearing it, I still felt it.
Right. Well, because you'd heard it before, because other people had said it before. So once that kind of gets in there, especially as being a kid, being young, it's the same thing that I think we can relate to. That's why I love your story. There's so much that everybody can relate to a certain extent, but yours was, like you said, you can't wear contacts, you can't lose 10 pounds or whatever, or 20 pounds or 50 pounds or whatnot.
Right.
It's something, and then you internalize a lot of that. So,
and then you're bombarded with all these messages from media that you have to be flawless and you have to be perfect and you have to have the perfect hair and the perfect eyes and the perfect weight and all this stuff. And because of all the surgeries I was going through, I knew I was never going to be that.
Right.
And so I didn't ever have that dream of being the princess, right? I didn't think I would ever be like Cinderella and get married and have, kids and all that. And I also believed that burn survivors didn't have kids. So I just didn't know anybody like me, right? Back in those days, like that was back in the 70s, right? And so in those days, we didn't have social media. So we didn't see other burn survivors. There was no support system for burn survivors. I believed I was the only one. And I remember having a conversation with my mom saying, I'm the only person in the world who's burnt. And she said, no, you're not. And I said, okay, well, I'm the only one in Canada who's burnt. No, you're not. Okay, then I'm the only one in Alberta who's burnt. No, you're not. And I said, okay, well, I'm the only one in Edmonton who's burnt. And she says, well, maybe. And I know she said that just to shut me up. But but I truly do. Yeah, right. Yeah. I truly felt that way because I didn't know anybody else like me.
Right. So how did you get from there to where you are now? I mean, to being on this, Goalcast and 10 million views and a documentary of your life and all of that. Obviously, it wasn't a quick jump, right?
Well, and I'd love to share one more story before I get into that story.
Please.
So I remember when I was 16, and again, I was having all these surgeries, and I remember praying to God and saying, dear God, please don't make me wake up in the morning. But if I have to, can I at least be scarless so I can be pretty like all the other girls? Thank you, amen. And of course, I woke up in the morning, and of course, I looked in the mirror and still saw the scars. And so I thought, well, if my doctor can't take the scars away and God can't take the scars away, why would I want to live?
Right.
Right? Because I thought you have to be beautiful in order to be married and have kids. And, I did end up getting married and I did end up having kids. And then I went through 11 years ago, I went through my divorce and I decided that I was in a toxic relationship and it had to end so that I could go and be who I needed to be. And so he could go and find a woman who could love him the way he needed to be loved. And so that's when I met Charmaine, Hammond. I remember you and I were talking earlier.
Right. Not related.
Not related, but
unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are both amazing women. So you need to meet. So anyways, Charmaine and I met at this women's event and I had a different business at the time. And she said, Kel, you need to sell that business you're in and you need to be a speaker. And I said, why? I'm just a burn survivor. So what? And she's like, no, so many people will be so inspired by your story. Now, at that point in my life, I was still married, but I was in a toxic marriage. We were almost bankrupt. My former husband had told me he got laid off from his job. So he said, okay, it's time for you to step up to the plate. And I was raising our twins at that time. I was a single mom. And he's like, no, it's time for you to step up to the plate. Oh, no, I wasn't a single mom. I was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Stay-at-home mom, and my daughter and my twin boys. And I said, okay, fine, I'll go to work. And so I went to work. I had my scrapbook business at the time. And so we were in a really bad place in my marriage, financially. I had a job. And when Charmaine said people will be inspired by you, I'm thinking, why? Like, I do not have an amazing life. And I still remember going home and saying to him, I'm going to be a speaker. And he said, who's going to listen to you?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a toxic relationship.
But again, he's seeing that we're almost bankrupt, that he doesn't have a job. I'm not successful, right? He didn't see my scars anymore because, of course, we were together for 24 years. So he didn't see what right? My business that I had was bankrupting us. So he didn't see me as being an inspirational person. And not that he was being, a jerk.
Right.
He just couldn't picture it. Right. And so he says, I just don't understand. Right. And so anyways, I said, I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And sure enough, that's what happened. And then I think it was about 6 months after that, I decided, okay, that's it. I'm out. And he said I could only leave if I gave him the house and the kids. I know. Oh, but again, I think it was because he thought if he said that I wouldn't leave.
Right.
Because he was scared, what was it going to be like to live without me? Right. And I was scared, what was it going to be like to live without him? Because my whole adult life, I had him, to support me and whatever, right? So anyways, it was our 24th year together. It was our anniversary. And we went to, it was nighttime, went to bed. And then I could tell he was sleeping because he was snoring. I went to the bathroom and I started crying my eyes out. And I heard that little voice say to me, you've done 24 years like this. You're only 44 years old. Can you do another 24 years? And I said, no way. Help me. And I believe that was my God talking to me, helping me through, right? Like sometimes we don't hear God's voice in a different tone, so we don't know it's really God talking to us, right? But now when I look back, it was like, that's what he was doing, was trying to get me to see that there was something else out there for me. And so I did end up leaving my marriage. And 4 months after that, my boss gave me an ultimatum. And she said to me, okay, so here's the thing. I sold my business, gave him his half of the money. My boss came to me and she said, okay, you've had the worst performance review in your life. She says, sometimes you got to wonder what is going on with you. You have this amazing life where you're being a speaker, you're doing awesome, but you come to work and you're doing horrible and you're making mistakes and blah, blah, blah. She said, I'm going to ask you one question. Are you excited to come to work on Monday? Or are you going to be relieved if you don't have to? And I was so upset because I was like, oh, because she hit me right here. Yep. Like I knew. So I went home, and you're going to love this part, Colleen. I went home that night and I had this Christian businesswoman's magazine. And so I'm reading the magazine, and every page, I can't see anything but follow your passion full time. And I flip the page, follow your passion full time, follow your passion full time. And I come to the middle, and in big block letters, it says, why do you not trust that God will provide you everything you need?
Amen.
And I slammed it shut. I was so mad. I get it. I know I'm supposed to be a speaker full time, but I don't have a job now. I don't have a man to support me. I'm living in my aunt and uncle's basement in a bedroom. I'm 44 years old. Like, I don't know how to do this. And so give me 3 more months. My bills will all be paid. I'll do it then. And then I heard the little voice say, are you going to be excited to go to work on Monday? Or relieved if you don't have to? And I'm like, oh.
There it is again.
Oh, damn you. Yeah. And I went to work the next day, and I wrote my boss an email, and I said, you are right. Today is my last day.
Yeah.
And I packed up my office and I left.
Wow. I had a friend of mine that used to say, faith is like going down the steps into a basement and none of the lights are on. So you just take a step out and you trust that the next step is there because it's pitch dark and it's black. And she said, that's what faith is like. Yep. When you step out into that darkness, that strange unknown, that, and you just trust that the next step is going to be there. So
exactly. And I still remember my boss had tears in her eyes when she did that to me. And, the analogy I use is that she was the mother bird pushing the baby bird out of the nest.
Yep.
And does the baby bird, when it's learning to fly for the first time, does it ever hit the ground? No. It doesn't, though. The baby bird never hits the ground. No. It drops, but it comes right back up and flies high.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I feel my life was like. And I thanked her many times. And I've told her, thank you for making that decision, because I probably wouldn't have left. I knew I wanted to leave, but I needed that mother bird to push me out.
Right.
And yeah.
So at that point you were speaking, but had you not written anything yet? Because now you've got.
I had written my first book while I was married. And I was speaking a little bit because my speaking coach said to me, okay, Kelly, now that you're a speaker, you need to be an author. And I was like, I don't know how to write a book. Like, how do I write a book? Right. Like, you think that's way too many words. I don't know how to start. Right. And who am I to write a book and all that? And she's like, no, you need to write a book. And so I did, not knowing at all what I was going to do or how to do it. But I just did it, and then got some friends involved to help me edit it and blah, blah, blah. And then 6 months later, I wrote my second book, and then that one became a best-selling book. But that happened after I left my marriage. So, yeah. And now I've written, I think, 6 books and a 7-time best-selling author. And now I coach people how to write and publish their books. And that's kind of what COVID did to me. Is last March, I lost all my speaking gigs. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I laid on the couch for a week, right? Because I didn't know.
A lot of us did, yeah.
A lot of us did, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't lost those 10 pounds, but and then I just started doing virtual events. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a pay what you can. So people would just pay me whatever they could. And I would do a 1-day seminar to teach people how to write their books. And this is like just a beautiful story. This one girl said to me, I am so glad that you made that a virtual event. She said, I was going through cancer and I was having chemo. And if you would have done it in person, I wouldn't have been able to attend it. And she said, and now she wrote her first book. She's a best-selling author. And now she's writing a series of 10 romance novels. And she said, I'm so glad. She says, I'm just so forever, not indebted. I don't know what that word is.
Well, in your debt, yeah, grateful, appreciative, yeah, all those words.
Taught me what to do, because now I can with my chemo and my cancer, I can't do my previous job, which was cleaning houses. Now I can be an author and make money that way.
Right. And I think that's what happened. Like I said, a lot of us spent that week on a week or 2 or 3 or 4
week or 2
on the sofa going, now what? Because all of my in-person events had gotten canceled and, that type of thing. So, and I do think now being able to do virtual events, and I speak at virtual events, and I have one of my own that I have coming up. It is such a benefit, because like I went to this conference I've wanted to go to for years. It's out in San Diego and I couldn't make it. And I was able to go this year because it was done virtually. So I think when we look at it that way and say, okay, well, things are different now. How do we pivot? What do we do with it now? And I think writing, I think everybody has a book in them.
Totally. I agree with you. And, and that's actually how I met you, was because your assistant found me on a virtual event.
Yeah.
and said, okay, we have to have you on Colleen's show. And I'm like, okay.
All right, why not?
I'm in.
That sounds fun. I can do it from my home.
It's fun. I love this.
And it is great, So tell me a little bit, you do have a free gift for our listeners. So tell me a little bit about that. And then tell me about what you are doing now and how you're taking, getting started as a speaker and author and taking that into the next step and helping other people do the same.
Right. So the free gift is the blueprint, because people always say to me, I don't know how to how to actually put a pen to this paper and start the book. Right. And so the blueprint is the 7 steps on how to get your book published on Amazon. And so people are welcome to download it. And also they can book a discovery call with me, a free call for 30 minutes. And then what was happening is people were saying, well, Kelly, I want to be a best-selling author like you. How do I do that? And so then I set up a 4-day challenge to teach people how to get their book started. And then, of course, I've got different coaching packages where I coach them whether they want to be a best-selling author and I do it for them, or they can do it themselves. And then I have another package where they just want to get their book published, but they don't care to be a best-selling author. And so I just take people right from concept to being a best-selling author.
Yeah, especially now, like you said, with COVID. I mean, we're at home anyway. You might as well be taking.
We might as well be writing, and and the thing is, the way it's so easy nowadays to do it.
Right.
It's not as hard as before, and you can do it for free. So if money is tight, you can write a book, get it up on Amazon for free, and publish it and start making money.
Absolutely. Yeah, I encourage everybody to do it. I've done things under a pen name, and so I have things out there, but that Amazon program, it's wonderful. And if you've got all the steps, people need to go to you. So I want to back up a little bit because I want to go back to your story a little bit more.
Sure.
Because we've got that whole thing on Goldcast, and then there's the whole documentary thing. So let's go back. So you're out of your job and you've talked to this woman, and now you're out there and you're starting to do some stuff. So how does that lead to a documentary?
A documentary. Well, this is cool. So I went to another, a networking event, a masterminding event. And one of the leader there, Jay Fassett, said, Kel, I really believe your story should be a documentary. And I'm like, again, right? Like,
me? Right.
Me? Like, what? Really? Why? I'm a burn survivor. So what? Right. But no, he said, no, really, your story needs to be a documentary. And so what happened was I went to a conference to learn, a Hay House conference, because I wanted to learn how to publish, how to get a publishing contract is what I wanted to learn. And so I took that, and apparently they also had a contest, so you could win a publishing contract with them. And I didn't win the contest, but I said to myself, again, that little voice, I said, okay, why did I write this book proposal? There's obviously a reason why. Like, why else did I write this? And I heard the little voice say to me, email Brian. Now, Brian works for a broadcaster here in Canada called AMI, Accessible Media Incorporated. And they believe that every person, whether you're blind or deaf, should have access to television. So they absolutely loved my story, being a burn survivor. And so they contacted me and said, okay, do you want to produce it yourself? Because I have done another documentary. Or do you want to co-produce it with us and we'll put money in the pot? And of course I said, well, let's co-produce it and you guys put money in the pot, because I don't want to have to put money in the pot, right?
Exactly.
So that's what happened. So it took 2 years. And then I also wrote the book, the Still Beautiful book that goes along with the documentary. And what they did is they actually even recreated my accident of me getting burnt.
Oh my.
Yeah, they came, and this is just so cool. They came out to where I live, and my best friend still has their original family farm that still has the burning barrel. It still has their house is situated exactly like how mine was. And so they recreated my whole accident. And that was just blows me away whenever I see it, because I don't remember my accident.
Right.
So when I watch it on the documentary, it takes me back. And they even had like a little 2-year-old girl that doesn't have scars, so they showed her walking around the burning barrel and stuff, and the explosion, and then me being rushed to the hospital. And so they did like incredible reenactments. And even of the school thing where I got called Scarface, they recreated that. And then me speaking to 3,000 teenagers about how to love themselves. And so they even filmed that speech. So they just did a beautiful job on it. Just incredible.
Yeah, that must be as a parent too, because now you look at it as a parent, I would anyway, and see that 2-year-old little girl and then how you feel as a parent. And then there's that guilt. And if I had done this and what ifs and, all of those things. So that's what I love about the documentaries that kind of can do those recreations. That's
absolutely.
Very powerful.
My mom was only 21 years old when I got birth, and she was pregnant with my sister at the time. And so she was, of course, like she felt so guilty and ashamed and blamed herself for me getting burnt because she was going to keep me inside to change my diaper. But they say that the wet diaper actually saved my life.
Really?
Well, because the flame stopped at the diaper because it was wet.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So it saved my life.
Yep.
But yeah, there was a lot of guilt and shame. And it wasn't until my mom watched the documentary that she finally forgave herself.
Oh, what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing. Yeah, because I had guilt as a parent. I mean, we have guilt. We have parent guilt anyway,
Exactly.
let alone something like that. So
bad mom syndrome,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the talk that you give to teenagers. So tell us a little bit about that, because like I said, we all deal with these self-esteem, self-worth issues. So what do you talk to young adults about, and what can you share with us? Because we all struggle with self-esteem. So how did you work through that, and what can you share from that talk?
That was actually one of my favorite talks of all. And the reason being is we actually had a full-length mirror on the stage with me. And I showed the girls, well, all of them, that the mirror doesn't talk. You see, we learn at age 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, when we watch the movie Snow White, that the mirror talks. We see the evil queen talking to the mirror, and we hear the mirror talking back. And what people don't understand is that the voice that we hear, we think it's coming from the mirror. And it's not. It's our own negative self-talk that is harming us and keeping us from loving who we are and having great self-esteem. And so when I did that speech, I got on the stage and shared with them that the mirror doesn't talk. And it was so beautiful to watch. And even after I did the speech, we actually filmed us talking to some of the teenagers, and they all said it was so powerful to see that mirror on the stage and realize that the mirror doesn't talk. So we can change those voices in our head. It's up to us, right?
How do we change that voice? How do we change those thoughts and those, because I always say to my clients, we say the most horrible things to ourselves that we would never say to our best friend, that we would never say to our children. So how do we learn to identify those thoughts, and how do we change them? How do we stop thinking them?
Exactly. I still remember going to a garage sale, and this lady said to me, they couldn't do better than that. And I was like floored. Like I was in my 40s at that time. And I was so upset because she had no idea about all the surgeries I had been through and everything. And she had no idea what I've been through. Seriously, I was just so upset. So anyway, when I would go in the mirror, I would say, because you know how affirmations, they say, all you have to do is keep telling yourself how beautiful you are, and eventually you'll believe it. So that didn't work for me. It didn't matter how many times I said, I am beautiful. It didn't work.
Right.
So I had to change that. So instead of going in the mirror and saying, I am beautiful, I went in the mirror and I said, I happen to love my big, beautiful green eyes. And then voice didn't say anything because it's true. I believe it. right? And then I looked at my nose and I said, oh my God, I happen to love my cute little nose. And again, the voice didn't say anything because it's true. I believe it, and then I looked at my ear and, I used to hate this ear because it's so deformed and, burned off and stuff. And I used to say, I hate my ear. But this time I went in the mirror and I said, I happen to love my cute little ear. It makes me special. It makes me different. It makes me unique. And at one time I was going to get a surgery to get a new ear made. And I thought, why? Just so somebody looking at me can think I'm beautiful? And so when I changed that conversation with the mirror, the next time I looked in the mirror, I saw everything I loved about me, not everything I hated about me. Because again, if I was to say I am beautiful, the mirror would say to me, no, you're not. You're not flawless. Women with scars are not beautiful, right? So I had to go and change that conversation to talk about, what do I love about me? What do I believe, right? And when you start believing that, then the mirror doesn't give you that negative voice.
Doesn't
right?
talk
when
back.
You stop comparing yourself. You got to stop comparing yourself to other women. That's the big thing. Most women, it's just like they walk in a room, oh, well, I'm not as beautiful as that person. They're more beautiful than me, or they're more successful than me, or they're smarter than me, or they're richer than me, right? And then that's how we diminish ourselves. So women need to stop comparing themselves to other women. And I love this Rachel Hollis quote. This quote, she says, don't compare your beginning to my middle.
Exactly.
Right? And you know all about that, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, yes.
No, that's really good, because that's the problem I have with affirmations is, if you I can't remember if I read an interview or I heard something you had said, but when you look and say, I am beautiful, and you look in the mirror and you go, well, compared to the photoshopped versions of the girls on the cover of the magazines, I don't qualify. Well, none of us do,
Because it's fake.
It's fake. It's all photoshopped, and I know there's a couple of people that are like, I'm going to post something that's not photoshopped. Well, that doesn't last very long, because if 99.99999% of everything that's out there is photoshopped and fake or artificially created, you can't compare to that. So that's why I have a problem with affirmations like that. And also I have a problem with externals. I want to, because as a stylist and an image consultant, I work with people on their personal brand.
Yeah.
The first question I ask in the form is, tell me all the things that you like about yourself.
Right.
And people have the hardest time with that part.
They do.
They get to the part where, what do you want to camouflage? And it's a huge list.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if we can focus on not just externals, like you said, I've got a cute nose and I big, beautiful eyes and, and I'm kind. I want people to also recognize their inner qualities.
Exactly. Absolutely. You're totally right about that. And you're right. Like even the most beautiful girl, you can go talk to her and say, oh my God, you are so gorgeous. And they'll say, oh, no, I'm not. And they'll say, I have a big nose. My nostril on this side is bigger than the other side. And they'll come up with a whole list of 10 things of why they're not gorgeous.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So when you were working and going through this work for yourself, right? So you're going through your own transitions and whatnot, and now you have children. How did all of this impact your children?
It's interesting. I've had that conversation with them a few times because, I said to them, like, has anybody ever said anything to you? Because people always ask me, how do your kids feel? And there's only one time that my one son had a problem, and he was in 6th grade, and they had their week-long summer camp that they did at school. And this one kid comes up to Cody and says, your mom is so ugly. Well, that did not sit with him, and he punched him out. And then the kid tried to get back into the cabin, and Cody punched him out again. And then he tried to get back in again. And Cody said, what part of this are you not understanding? You are not going to get into this cabin. You insulted my mom. Like my mom, like you just, like they are so, so protective of me. And, you know, I'll never forget, because when I was speaking so much, I felt like I was being a bad mom, and I call it bad mom syndrome.
Yeah.
And one day I was driving Parker to school, high school, and, you know, he said, you know, Mom, my friends complain about their moms. And I say, no, I don't relate. I'm proud of my mom. I love her. And I was like, aw. And he was like 16 at the time.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So he's at that age where, you know, they're not really liking their moms and dads, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, aw, like how amazing that, you know, my son is saying how much he loves me and he's proud of me. You know, he's seen over the past 10, 11 years that I've been this single mom who's struggled and struggled and struggled, but I still try, and I try again, and I try something different, and I don't give up. And that's why I won all those awards. And that's why, you know, all this stuff has happened, is because I just do it.
Right. And I think that's part of identifying with like a personal mission in life. And when our children can see us being a good mom and putting them first, but of also going out and living the life that we're supposed to give, you know, I think that's inspirational too.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, and on my Facebook, I posted this picture because when we were filming the documentary, we did a skydiving event. So it was a fundraiser for my Blankets for Burn Kids. And so what we did is you had to raise $1,000, and then you got to skydive for free. And then all the money we used to buy the blankets that I had, and then we gave them to the kids at summer camp. And so my kids got to participate in all of this. And so it was so funny because I put up this picture of all of us in our skydiving gear. And people are saying, oh my God, that looks like a Top Gun commercial, right? With the four of us walking on the tarmac, right? And
I saw that picture. I think it was on your Facebook page. Yeah.
Yeah, I just put it up yesterday.
Yeah.
And people are just like, there's something like 200 likes and something like this on it. Yeah. And it was so funny because I did this all as a single mom. Right? And a lot of times we think that, you know, like I've had this belief that single moms are always broke.
Oh, right.
Right? Because they don't have a man to support them, right?
Right.
And so, you know, it was so cool when I saw that picture, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it up on Facebook and see what people say. And so now people are asking me to do a speech around it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I have my pilot's license, so I see people skydiving, and I'm like, why would you jump out of a perfectly good plane? You know, just keep going. And it's kind of but it is on my bucket list is to go skydiving.
Oh, and it's funny. I have a story about that with Parker, my one son, because he said exactly that. He said, Mom, I see no reason to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, but he's also scared of heights. And so anyways, so my cousin told him what would happen. And so anyways, he did it. And then when I was the last one to land, and he come running over to me and he goes, Mom, Mom, Mom. And I'm like, what? He goes, that was amazing. When can we do it again? And I said, did you get the lesson? He goes, what lesson? If you never would have done it, you never would have known how much you love it.
True.
And so how many times do we let fear stop us from doing the things we want? And that to me is the big lesson with that whole skydiving thing is, you know, we don't have to do things in traditional ways. We can do a fundraiser so that we can get to do it and, you know, create an impact. And so that's one of the things that I'm really proud of, is that my sons and my daughter have seen me take simple little ideas and turn them into something awesome.
And that's what I hope other people will get from hearing your story, is it's those tiny little things. So when you walk away from like making a speech or doing a podcast interview, what is it that you hope, what's your bottom line message? What do you hope that people take away from your story or your life or the speech or the interview?
Right now, it's hope. we like right now we're in a really tough time with COVID. So a lot of us don't know what our future is going to be like. I'm one of them. I don't know what the future is going to be like. I'm working my butt off. Right?
Exactly.
One, because I have the time, but secondly, because I don't know what the future is going to bring. And there's all these conspiracy theorists out there. And I'm like, what the heck? I don't know what, and right? I don't know what's going to happen. So to me, it's about hope. And, you know, I still remember I spoke at this one conference, and it was a burn survivor conference. So there was 1,000 burn survivors there. And this was early on in my speaking career. So probably 9 or 10 years ago. And I was like shocked because this one burn survivor got up and he did this incredible speech. And I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. Like, I'll never be as good as him. And how could he do this? Like, no notes and everything. And just incredibly powerful story. And so I'm talking to my friend and I'm crying because I have 2 speeches to do in a breakout room. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? I don't get it. Like, I'm not as good as him. And I said, I don't know what I can offer these people. And so I'm walking down the street crying, texting my best friend, and I look up and there's the street sign and it says Hope Boulevard.
Oh,
and
no
I thought,
such thing as a coincidence.
Oh my gosh, I can give them hope. And so that's what I feel like my message is these days. It's hope. It's hope that you can get out and write a book and make an impact. Right? You can get out and be a virtual speaker. You can go and you can pivot and you can do whatever you want to do. Now is the time, right? Now is the time for all of us to reflect on what are we doing in our lives that are working and what are we doing that's not working. And what wasn't working for me was being a keynote speaker. Like, a part of it was working, but now that I'm actually pivoted and coaching people to write books and become best-selling authors, I made more money in 2020 than I ever have.
Yeah,
right?
I had a good 2020 as well.
Exactly. And then some of us are feeling ashamed that we had a great 2020 because a lot of people are struggling. Right. But have you ever read that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that book. Yes.
I know, but I have it here somewhere. But anyways, that book is all about if something's not working for you, what do you do? Do you stay where you are, or do you pivot and go and do something else and find more trees?
Right.
That's exactly what 2020 has done for us.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what you're doing is very admirable and wonderful in helping people make that pivot and use our time at home productively and change other lives, because I think everybody has a book in them. I really honestly believe that every single solitary person has a book in them, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more than that. Yeah. And, you know, you can put your book up on Amazon for free and you could be making money on it. And, you know, my friend that has chemo or has cancer, and she said, I'm so glad you taught me how to do this at a virtual event, because now she's got a 10-book series that she's putting out. She can't do her old job anymore because it's a physical job, but she can write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And she can inspire people and she can do that. And so she's so excited because she's a best-selling author now because I taught her.
Yeah. So. And you have, if you're watching this on YouTube and not on the podcast and just listening, behind Kelly are a bunch of books from her clients that are successful best-selling books, all behind her. So
every one of them is a best-selling book. So these are all my clients' books. So yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. We're going to do an extended version and talk some more for our VIPs. But thank you so much, Kelly, for being here and sharing your story.
You're very welcome. Listeners. Thank you for the honor of being on your show. Thank you.
You're such a blessing. All right. So thanks for being with us on this episode of Coffee with Colleen, and we'll see you next time. Blessing. All right. So thanks for being with us on this episode of Coffee with Colleen.
Oops, sorry. Forgot to turn that off. Wasn't she amazing? I just was re-listening to it and just the things that she had to share about hope. I mean, just so much. What were the things that stood out for you? And again, after this interview, we went back and we continued to talk, and then we recorded another, I think it was 15 minutes, like I said, on perseverance and how she came up with like 17 steps, but she shares 3, 4, 5 of them, I think it was, in the excerpt for VIPs. So cappuccinos. Oh, did you read? Yeah, I like that book, Christine. It's like, Who Moved My Cheese, man? It was such a cute book too. And I loved the whole concept of, wait a minute, checking something. Lost it. And then I lost my train of thought. So yeah, she just had so many powerful things to share. And I know it's a long interview, probably better on a podcast. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and listen to it there. I actually, even though like I ended up listening to the interviews like 3 or 4 times. Here, let me give you the link on where to subscribe to the podcast. Because I when I'm doing it, I'm trying to focus and listen, and so it's hard because I'm only listening to my guest. I'm not looking at my guest, and that's difficult. So the second time I go back and I look at the video, and then I watch my guests and I watch their movements and facial expressions and stuff, because I'm looking at the camera. I'm not looking at them. I'm looking at the camera. And at my studio at the house, I'll actually have a heads up display, which it's a teleprompter. But what I'm going to do in the future is put them up there so I can look at their picture or their video of them actually speaking. But it's important when you're recording videos that you look at the camera, right? And not like this all the time. So so then the second time I watch the video, and if there's anything that needs to be edited out, and we record live, so there's usually nothing that needs to be edited out. But then I listen to and watch it again when we go live here on Wednesday mornings. So I'm able to watch it a number of times, and every interview. And during the interview, I hear certain things, and then when I watch it the second time and double check the transcript, and I watch them, I pick up other things I said. And then this time, listening to Kelly again, I'm like, oh my gosh, I pick up on new things. So I don't, when something's good, I like to go back and listen to it over again. So I recommend just make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We need numbers. We need numbers. So people need to be downloading, and that would be really cool. And also I need reviews. So got to have that happening. But so many things. Started crying when she talked about the mirror. Yeah, huge block for me during my entire life. I think it has for most of us too, Fiona, because was it Chris that made the comment about deep fakes? Or Joanne? Who made the comment about deep fakes? Yeah, Joanne made the comment that, we and I think we know things are photoshopped, and then you have filters on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok or wherever. And even on Zoom, I accidentally was showing somebody how to turn on the filter settings on Zoom, and I accidentally left them on. So when I was interviewing Joanne, she goes, before we did the pre-interview, we were just sitting there talking, she goes, oh, I think you've got and she had taken my course on how to look good on Zoom. And she goes, oh, I think you have your filter settings on Zoom, because when you moved your face too fast, your lips ended over on your cheek. I was like, I don't use filters on Zoom. And sure enough, and one of the ways you can tell is if you hold your hand in front of your face, your lips appear in the back of your hand. So I held no, I don't have oh my gosh, I do. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, I think people need to wake up to, your mirror doesn't talk, you do. And when you look in your mirror, you have to look for those things about you to love instead of looking at your flaws. And it's something I still have to work on as well. I think the challenge comes, I do pretty good until people start emailing me about certain things. And it's like, wow. And that's why it's nice to have Jennifer, although Jennifer used to be full-time, she's more part-time now. So I'm getting more and more of my own emails that I'm reading. I'm like, that's mean. And think about all the things that Kelly talked about, the kids in school that said mean things to her. So people are mean. Kids are mean. And some people never quite outgrow that kid meanness, I don't think. sadly. So anyway, so next week we have, who's coming up next week? Oh, Isolde. Isolde is a former NASA master trainer. And we had so much fun. We had so many things in common. And she's brilliant. So it's like, okay, dumb this down. Tell it to me again, type of thing. But she talked about, anyway, she talked about, she has aim high for perfection. So, of course, you have to remember her training as a master trainer. She was a master trainer at NASA. Traveled the world training for NASA. And fascinating stories. And I think she worked for them for 26 years. But she was telling me about her process, so that she goes in and teaches companies, but she converted it and switched it to like one-on-one for everybody to be able to use in their private life on how to master certain things in your life, how to be creative, how to teach yourself to be creative, how to be mindful, how to sleep better. I mean, there was just so many things we discussed in next week's interview, and I think it's shorter too. So that'll be a good one too. Anyway, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you're not a Cappuccino member yet, make sure you join the Cappuccinos. Again, it's ColleenHammond.com/club, or look at the link in the notes. All right, I'm going to close this out because we've been on for over an hour. Oh my goodness, no one's going to watch a replay on this. And then look for your email, because I'm sending out the details for next week's challenge. That email will be going out tomorrow morning, first thing. So you'll want to be in the challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing games and giving out prizes and gifts, and I'll be giving away some one-on-one consultation and all sorts of stuff. So next week's going to be a good time. All righty. Take care. God bless. Thanks for being here this morning. We'll see you next time. Bye.